overall, I'm going to say, listen, it's still Scottie Scheffler. Let's take it easy.
Bon Jovi always says, who says you can't go home, right? I guess I could go back one more time.
You've got to beat Angel Cabrera, who's 2 years out of place. Why is this not the best bet on the board?
They'll get what they get when they get it.
Any shots you want to call on a guy you don't like to have a good Thursday, Friday?
I'm going to say Rory.
Mm-hmm.
They do not profile like a 10-win team. They profile like 7-win type teams. I can't wait to let 18 and 22-year-olds push the through. I made a call, to Vegas. I said, look, we actually need the favor.
Bear's podcast back. Bear as well. I shouldn't say Bear was always here because Bear wasn't here last week as he had spotty internet on a cruise. Jeff Schwartz not here as he's the one dealing with vacation, a little time off with the family right now. But my guy Sammy P, he's the one who's always here. Sammy, just start recap, just kind of thoughts on the NCAA tournament title game last night. Not the prettiest thing aesthetically, but congrats to all the Michigan backers out there.
No doubt. You weren't here last week because you were looking for the diamond that Rose dropped in Titanic. Remember, that's the true story that we're going with. But I did tell the story because I had that superfecta. Not that it was all that bold, but putting Illinois in the Final Four with the 3 number ones was a 30-1 ticket.
Yep.
And like the only thing I needed was Duke to win. And when the shot went in, you from vacation with no Wi-Fi still had the ability to text something in all caps about Duke losing. And I was like, Jesus, Bear, come on.
Yeah.
Did have Michigan. That was nice. Not a great price, though. I'm still in awe of how Duke blew that 19-point lead, though, man. I can't believe it.
Now, did you think about getting anything live on UConn, or did you just not even cross your mind? Duke's up however many. This game's over.
They were putting up lines at DraftKings and FanDuel for Duke and Illinois. So when you see that, when you see lines populating, when they already are saying that Duke has won the game with 16 minutes to go, you're such a massive favorite that it shouldn't really cross your mind. You're not trying to give away part of the profit that you worked hard to get. Looking back, of course, I should have done something, but it was nice to get Michigan. But again, not really ballsy to say a number 1 seed is going to win the tournament. It was nice for anybody who jumped in on Michigan. Really good basketball, I thought, in the Final Four. I mean, a lot of people were complaining about the top seeds and the lack of mid-majors. I enjoyed the Final Four.
That's why I'm sorry. I did not know at the time I gave my celebratory exhale that UConn beat Duke. I did not know you had that superfecta, so I apologize for that. I would have kept that to myself had I known that. But
it was right when the shot went in too. I was like, this guy doesn't even have service, and he's sliding them in.
That was literally the only time on the ship where I did not have like the video access. It was wild because we started and like all of a sudden like my video went out. And like the regular internet worked, the texting worked, but like it wasn't fast enough to support video, which stunk. But so I apologize for that. It was a good time, but I'm with you. I kind of like when if we could get a few more first round upsets and then have the cream of the crop rise, and you get an Elite Eight with like one Cinderella, like Tennessee kind of was, and then the big boys, and you get that. Yeah, I'm all for that. But don't give me like what's perceived to be non-competitive Final Four games. And in reality, I mean, I guess the Arizona-Michigan game was kind of non-competitive, and UConn, I guess it kind of got close late, but the second half was never really in doubt. And then I'm still on the fence as to last night. As to like, I guess if you made an argument, like sitting here, like, well, how did Michigan not score 70 points, shoot under 40% from the field? They got out rebounded. They had 1-3 and they won. How did that happen? Or like you could have told me Michigan won the game by double digits, or UConn won the game, and I would be like, yeah, I guess that kind of sounds about right. But it was just a weird game, and OptaStats had that note about the teams being 1-50 with the stat accumulations that Michigan had, and the one win being last night. It was just kind of an unsatisfying finish in terms of a game. in contrast with the quality of play that we saw all year from Michigan. I guess that's the one good thing, is that one of the two teams that we thought were the best teams all year long wound up ultimately did winning.
Yeah, I think just at the end of the day, to make it short and sweet, Michigan proved that it's elite on both ends, and they don't have to score 70 to win a championship. Going into half, UConn had made 5 threes. I believe they were 5 for 13 from downtown. And then in the second half, they missed their first 13 threes. Now, you could say there's a lot of tired legs there, but Michigan locked in on defense and really started getting physical on that side of the ball. And they've always said defense wins championships. Michigan was better defensively, and they were the best two-way team in the country. I thought that from the start, and they cut down the final nets.
Yeah, and odds are up for next year. I certainly have no insight on anything for next year. Over 1,000 people in the transfer portal, so we don't know how things are going to play out. Then you haven't looked at anything for next year yet, have you?
I looked at Illinois 25-1, but that's just a homer bet. That's all.
Well, there's certainly nothing wrong with that, but something that we are really looking into this week. The Masters underway, kind of the first rite of spring, weather kind of getting nice everywhere now, especially here in the Northeast where I am living. And we're going to have one of my old friends, old colleagues from back in the day, Justin Ray, to preview the Masters with us. Pleased to be joined now by Justin Ray, a longtime friend and colleague of mine. We work with CBS Sports this week on the coverage of the Masters tournament. You can follow him on Twitter, one of the best follows. And I missed it last night. A majority of your tweet storm. He has an annual tradition of firing out a tweet storm, taking your questions during the NCAA tournament. So I'm going to ask you probably something that was an obvious question in the coverage, and a way to wrap your head around handicapping the Masters. First of all, how are you?
I'm doing great. Easy travel into this morning into Augusta, so that's the key variable you got to knock out.
Yeah, do you want to make the drive from Atlanta or the drive from Columbia? That's always the thing to figure out. But that was not the question that I figured coming up on the tweet storm that I would be asking you. It involves number one player in the world, Scottie Scheffler, won the green jacket a couple times. Hasn't necessarily been in the great form the last couple of rounds. He hasn't been great in the first round. Has been off since the birth of his second child. This is kind of an overblown storyline, right? There's really nothing to worry about with Scottie in terms of a layoff and his struggles to get off to a good start in tournaments. This is nothing. This is a whole lot to do about nothing, right?
I would say those two elements of the story aren't that big of a deal. But one thing that I would say is that he doesn't have the same overwhelmingly dominant approach play metrics this season that he's had the last 3 years, where he's basically been by far and away the best iron player on the planet. This year, I mean, a year ago, and even I think each of the previous 2 years, he entered the Masters leading the PGA Tour in strokes gained approach. He's way down in that. He's actually gaining more strokes putting this season than his approach play. I had one number from 2022 to 2025. He gained at least 2 strokes with his approach play in like 30% of his rounds. That's incredibly elite to do that, to gain 2 strokes. He's done that one time this season. So it's not the same guy in terms of approach play. His golf swing has undergone a little bit of criticism as of late from some people who know more about the golf swing than me. But overall, I'm going to say, listen, it's still Scottie Scheffler. Let's take it easy. He's 111 under par in the majors since 2020 when he really got his career going, 55 shots better than anyone else in that span. He leads every statistic at the Masters since he made his debut. And by the way, he has the best scoring average in the history of the tournament for anybody with 20 or more rounds. So he's got a lot of that. He's got a lot going for him, needless to say. And it would be no surprise if he, worked with his coach and found something in these 2-3 weeks he hasn't played with his iron game. And he comes into Augusta a lot sharper than he's been so far this season.
And he's 5.5 to 1 is the best number that I have found him to win the Masters. He's never been outside the top 20 at Augusta National. More on that later with some of the bets that I made. You hit on something which you hear about Augusta National being a second shot golf course on approach. What do you consider if you're trying to profile a player to either win or maybe a little bit of a long shot, or someone that maybe is a little off the grid in terms of a contender, do you follow the second shot approach, or do you say the most important thing is putting? Like, what side of the argument do you lean on here? Because I mean, we've had this. You and I have had discussions with Andy North and some other guys that we've been very fortunate to work with about saying, like, I could put the golf ball down on the green on every hole in regulation, and you would struggle to break par for the course. So, like, approach or putting?
Well, for you or me out there, that may be the case, but for the world's
Ooh.
best, I wouldn't say so. Look, I call this he's the second shottiest second shot golf course in championship golf, period. Strokes gained approach accounts for 36% of a player's, about 36% of a player's strokes gained among winners since 2015. That's significantly higher than the PGA Tour average. The other three majors the last couple of years, that number is 28%. So maybe that doesn't sound like an enormous difference, but that's a pretty big, significant magnitude of what you need to emphasize when you look at players that might be down there on the odds board. I look at a guy like Corey Connors, right? His strongest attribute by far is his iron play. He's got a great history at the Masters. He's not necessarily the best putter in the world. He's not a prolific winner. He's not going to be a guy that's going to be top of mind for a lot of folks. But that's the kind of player you could see have success. Will Zalatoris isn't in this field. He's been fighting injuries, but he's the same kind of player. He, in his Masters debut, nearly won the thing. Has a great history here, and he's a really good iron player as well. That's the statistic that you should focus in on if you're looking for somebody down the board. If I had to rank the attributes, if you break the game into four different pieces: off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting. Approach is first, and then around the green is what I would put second, because it's so much more significant here. Everybody misses greens in regulation, and it's very penalizing if you miss on the wrong side, and then you leave yourself with a more difficult chip or pitch. So that's what I would look at mainly. If you've got somebody who's really good with his irons and at least above average around the green, you might be able to find some value down the board.
Speaking of having success at Augusta, let's talk about Justin Rose, who's been the first round leader 5 times. However, I'm getting text all week. Are we betting Justin Rose first round leader? It's sort of jumped the shark now. And the price last year was 70 to 1. Now it's 30 to 1, 35 to 1. I'm not saying he's going to turn into the Tin Man round 1, but maybe top 5, top 10 instead of leading everybody after 1?
So I'll give you one statistic that really blew me away when I dove into it about Justin Rose this season. He is averaging more strokes gained approach per round this year than he has on the PGA Tour since 2013, which is, and me and Bear were there, when he won the US Open at Marion. That's something that really jumps off the page to me. We know all the historic amount of close calls and heartbreak he's had. He's led or co-led after 11 Masters rounds, if you include, co-leading after 72 holes and going into a playoff. Nobody else in the history of the tournament without a win has done that more than 6 times. That's how close, how often he's been. He knows everything there is to know about this golf course. The only thing he hasn't done is put the green jacket on. But that approach play number, that really piques my interest this week. He's kind of had a little bit of a confusing last few weeks since he ran away with the tournament at Torrey Pines. I don't put a ton of stock into that, though. He's building towards this moment, building towards this week. Maybe think a little bit about that first round lead. I mean, he's done it so often. I mean, wouldn't surprise me if we saw it happen again.
Yeah, as of our recording here, we have not seen the starting times for the pairings. I'm using my correct Masters vernacular here. One of the things we always like to look at when we were at the Open Championship or really any golf tournament, kind of maybe you get a weather situation with some of the early waves versus the late waves having an advantage on Thursday, Friday. It looks like no rain in the forecast, wind very minimal. So it doesn't look like whether you're starting late, starting early is going to be too much of an advantage, is there?
No, I don't think it's going to be a factor this year. I mean, based on the forecast, it looks gorgeous. It's beautiful here today. There's hardly any wind. It's supposed to be a little bit of wind in round 1, but I think it's going to be pretty balanced out in terms of the time when that arrives. So it's not going to be like an Open Championship where you really need to pay attention to the draw if you want to, figure out, because that can swing wildly. I mean, I'm thinking about all these majors. I worked with Bear on site at ESPN. Think about all the way back in 2010. Rory McIlroy goes out Thursday and shoots 63, goes out it's blowing a hoolie, to use a Scottish term. And I think he shot 78 in the second round. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of that this year. I think it's going to be a pretty consistent set of conditions. It's supposed to be absolutely beautiful. It's going to play firm and fast. I can't wait to get going.
As we know, Justin, Scottie Scheffler is going to be favored in every major tournament until he falls off the face of the earth. But what the sportsbooks have done recently is they give you Scheffler insurance. So you can play the winner without Scottie. Say Scottie comes in first, it basically comes into who's in second. The 2 guys right after Scottie are Rahm and Bryson. Which one do you like more this week?
It's a great question. I think it's really close. I mean, you think of those guys inherently together because obviously they're both on the Live Tour. But look, Bryson's the one with multiple wins on Live. But if you look at Jon Rahm's numbers, he leads basically every statistic on that tour. He's hitting more than 80% of his greens in regulation over there. That's not something you can expect on a major championship setup, of course, but it just gives you a small peek into how excellent he's been this season. I probably lean a little bit towards Rahm, but I will say this puzzle, Bryson seems to be kind of figuring it out the last couple of years. Obviously, he finished in the top 10 each of the last 2 years, first 2 times he's ever done that. From 2018 through 2023, he lost more than half a stroke per round on the greens at Augusta National. He's gaining more than half a stroke the last 2 years. So that tells me he's more comfortable. Maybe the yardage book and the pin sheet thing isn't that much of an issue for him anymore. But I think if I got to pick between those 2 guys this week, I'm going to lean towards Jon Rahm.
He, of course, and Bryson, of course, kind of that mad scientist kind of experimenting with a bunch of different things. I think the last 2 years, he really, I think there were a lot of people who had enjoyed his humble pie when he was, well, I'm going to turn it into a par 70, yeah, whatever it was. And I think people enjoyed that. And then it was like, okay. And then he got down to work the last couple of years with a couple of great finishes. So Sammy laid it out. Scottie's the favorite. Rahm second choice. Bryson third choice. There are only 3 other players out there shorter than 20-1. Rory, the defending champion. Ludwig Goldberg, 17-1. Xander, 18-1. Does the winner come from that group, A? And B, the follow-up for me obviously would be, if the winner doesn't come from that group of 6, who out there do you have your eye on?
Well, on another podcast and last night on Twitter during the barrage I shared with everybody during the championship game, I made my pick, and it answers your question. I'm picking Ludwig Goldberg to win. I'm from the camp of, if you keep putting yourself in the right position over and over again, eventually a player that talented will break through. So I don't necessarily look at Sunday at the Valero Texas Open, Sunday at the Players, and see it as a big downside. I see it as him consistently putting himself in a position to succeed. His putting numbers are ridiculous. Through 2 starts at Augusta National, gains more than a stroke and a half per round of the greens. That's through the roof. Great. He's coming off his last 3 starts, 3rd, 5th, and 5th. That doesn't suck. That's pretty good. I think we're due for a wave of more first-time winners. And look, last year's only first-time winner in the major championships, J.J. Spaun, experienced some players' heartbreak of his own. I think that's what we see. Now, to answer your other question, if it doesn't come from that group, I love Matt Fitzpatrick this week. I mean, he's obviously won at the Valspar, but what we've seen in his approach play numbers really mirrors what we saw, what he did with his distance right before he won the U.S. Open. He's famously analytical, knows everything there is to know about his own game, and specifically works on facets of it based on the numbers he sees. He built his distance up to the point where he could win a U.S. Open a few years ago. His approach play has gone from outside the top 100 to inside the top 10 this season. He led the field in strokes gained approach at Valspar. I told you how significant that statistic is. I really like him a lot this week. He doesn't have a ton of high finishes at the Masters, but all the different numbers are pointing to a guy who could have a breakthrough week here at Augusta this week.
I think you just got me back. I had Luda last year to win.
Yep.
And, Bon Jovi always says, who says you can't go home, right? I guess I could go back one more time. I will tell you a name that I'm hearing from Vegas, multiple sports books and big bettors. They love Adam Scott this year. Now, let me start by saying it's not to win. It's in head-to-heads. It's in group play. It's in top Australian markets. I don't know that he wins it at 60-1 or 70-1, but that's a very sexy name in Vegas this week.
I like that top Australian. I mean, because you think about the other players. I mean, Mark Leishman's not in this field. Cameron Smith has kind of fallen off. I mean, even by live standards, he doesn't have a ton of high finishes. But to think about what Adam Scott's done, he's playing in his 98th consecutive major, the second longest streak in the history of the game behind only Jack Nicklaus. He's been pretty consistently good with his ball striking, as always. I mean, that timeless swing never really seems to deviate from anything other than excellent. I think you can definitely find some value there. And look, no major championship values past experience more than Augusta National does. It favors players with lots of reps around this golf course. Adam Scott's been coming here for the better part of 2 decades.
You mentioned players with a lot of experience. I'm going to mention players with not a lot of experience. Jordan almost did it a few years ago. We all know about no debutante has won since Fozzie in 79 it was.
79, yes, sir.
You've got Jacob Bridgman, Chris Gotterup, Ryan Gerard, Ben Griffin, whose form has kind of fallen off a little bit. He's kind of fighting his swing, it looks like. Who would you back in that top debutante market?
As talented as Gotterup is and as much success as he's had, I'm going to lean towards Jacob Bridgman simply because statistically he is the best putter on the PGA Tour this season. Leads the tour in strokes gained putting, leads in a bunch of other different metrics on the greens. I don't know if that doesn't always immediately translate to Augusta National, as we know. I mean, you've got to learn kind of the ins and outs and all the secrets on those putting surfaces, but he's someone who's immensely talented in that regard. I think about him winning at Riviera and all the different players through the years who've had great success at Riviera and were Masters champions. Adam Scott's won there multiple times. He's a Masters winner. John Rahm won at Riviera before he won the Masters a couple of years ago. Mike Weir, Phil Mickelson. There's all these past champions at Riviera or players who contended year after year at Riv that have had success in the Masters. It was soft that week at Riviera. It will not be soft this week. It's going to be firm and fast at Augusta. So that makes me a little bit weary, but I'm going to pick Bridgman narrowly over Gotterup when it comes to the first timers.
Plus 640 is the best price you can get on Bridgman that I found. Sammy, and Gotterup was the favorite of plus 400.
I need a shot here on the other side, though. We go on all these shows and we have all these conversations about who do we like to win? Who do we like to finish top 5? You can get rewarded, Justin, if you take a guy like Schauffele or Fleetwood or whoever to miss the cut. Yes. Any shots you want to call on a guy you don't like to have a good Thursday, Friday?
Oh, man, that's a good question. Wow. I'm thinking about the top of the world ranking. I'm going to say Rory simply because of the volatility of being that major champion. He hasn't played. Look, he's obviously defended a zillion titles in his career. He hasn't played a major as a defending champion in more than a decade. It's been since the 2015 PGA, since the last time he had that. I'll say I don't think it'll, I don't think per se that he's going to struggle, but I could definitely see it happening where just the weight of the entire week, the elation and the relief of everything that happened, you know, the incredible roller coaster that was that final round. And then obviously the emotion of breaking through and exercising all those demons. I could see him going out and, you know, maybe Thursday afternoon, there's a 40 on the front 9 and we kind of, 39 on the front 9 and we're kind of fighting it. I don't know. I mean, I could see that happening for a defending champion. And look, no one's gone back-to-back since Tiger more than 20 years ago. Only 3 defending champions have finished better than 10th in that span. So it's tough to do. It's tough to defend the title here.
6-1, Bear.
Yep, that's what I was just looking at as well. I like 6-1. One player that I did play to miss the cut, I found Cam Smith at plus 196 to miss the cut. He's missed the cut 5 straight majors. I don't know. I don't want to say he doesn't care anymore, but major champion now on Live. I think he just kind of enjoys family life and living in Australia and fishing right now.
And I'd say maybe that was just an incredible. Look, he's super talented. He's obviously a major champion. Won a Players, won an Open. But that was a hell of a heater. And we've seen guys go on those runs, and then it's not necessarily sustainable. I think of the run Jason Day had at number 1, and then some injuries kind of derailed him. Maybe there's a little bit of that goes into it. And it's not just, he's on Live, he doesn't care anymore. Maybe we saw the peak days of his professional career before he turned 30.
One bet that I made, and and Sammy knows it, and Jeff knows it, we always like to try and find these strange markets. I remember one year we were talking about, you and I, like there was a low Canadian market that was literally Mackenzie Hughes and Mike Weir. That was literally the market, low Canadian. And it was in like minus 500 match play, basically. So I found a top senior market. Why am I, why should I not unload? And I already have, so I can't take it back on Zach Johnson at minus 102. You've got to beat Angel Cabrera, who's 2 years out of prison, Vijay Singh, Mike Weir, Fred Couples, and JMO. Like, all these guys are minus 400 or longer to miss the cut. Like, Zach Johnson's been respectable on tour, the couple of events he's played, and he's playing really well on the Champions Tour right now. Like, why is this not the best bet on the board?
It is the best bet. It's one I even said last night during the chat. I was like, if you can find this, hammer it. 3 starts on the PGA Tour.
It's a DK.
Three starts on the PGA Tour Champions. He's finished 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Zach Johnson finished top 10 at the Masters last year. I mean, it was inexplicable and out of nowhere. But I mean, and then you look at he doesn't have a ton competing with him in that group, right? There's not a lot of there's no Mickelson, there's no, there's a lot of names that aren't there. No Tiger, obviously, who would qualify in that 50 or older. So yeah, I'm all over that, and I've already maybe made a little wager on that as well.
But before I get to say, Sammy, like I think what Justin was saying before about the weather forecast, if it's playing fast, that's going to help him being an older guy, a shorter hitter. He's going to get a little bit more run in the fairways too, no?
Agree, 100%. That's absolutely going to help. Soft is what's going to help bombers. Faster is going to bring more of those guys into play. I'm with you 100%. Now, maybe that brings some of those other older guys into play to beat Zach, but I think it's going to be. I'm with you. That's the most obvious thing bet on the board to me is Zach Johnson for Low Senior.
I think another obvious bet that people don't want to make because of the price is Scottie Scheffler to finish top 10. I mean, I don't want to say I'd be stunned if it didn't happen, but barring something crazy, he should finish in the top 10. So what we can do now, these books let us sort of build bets. Scottie top 10 and your guy Luda top 10 is almost 3-1. I know it's not the sexiest bet in the world, but you get two of the best to finish in the top 10. I'm going to bet it. I will.
Well, Scottie went about 9 months without finishing worse than 8th in a tournament anywhere on the planet. So, I mean, yeah, that's a pretty solid bet. And I told you how much I love Ludwig going into this week, just in terms of how well he's putted here and how successful he's been in those first two starts in his Masters career. I like it. I think you got to group that together. I think you might be able to find maybe even one more of those top players and tie that in. Well, why not? There's so many great. One of the things I love about this year is that the previous 4 years we had. I won't call it a coronation, but we had multiple winners, clear number ones at the top of their game coming into the Masters, whether it was Scottie 2 years, Rahm the year he won, and Rory last year. They all had big marquee wins. The players, obviously, the last 2 years. This year doesn't really feel that way. Goddard was a 2-time winner on the PGA Tour, but one of them was Wiley. It feels like it was 8 months ago. Bryson's won twice on Live, but you don't give that in the same amount of weight that you do, ear fell out. Sorry. Pebble Beach and the Players Championship. I love that there just feels like there's 15, 20 guys that might be able to win this thing.
Got one more two-pronged question from me, and I don't know if Sammy's got anything else for you. Both ends of the spectrum. One guy that if he wins and you don't have a bet on him, you will feel the most regret over. And then one guy out there who you want. I'm not talking about Bubba Watson or anything like that. Like one guy out there who is seen as kind of a contender that you want absolutely no part of this week.
Oh, okay. I'll do the second question first. Contender, I don't want any part of. I think people still view Jordan Spieth as a different player than he really is now. As much as I love watching Jordan.
I hate to hear that, man.
I know, and I love Jordan. He's one of my favorite players to watch, and part of me says, please, that would be honestly. You think about what would the top most exciting things for the patrons be on Sunday? Him in contention would probably be it. And look, as of 4 or 5 years ago, he had one of the best records in the history of the Masters. It's not bad since then, but it's not that same guy. So that's probably where I would lean in terms of someone I would not necessarily pick who's viewed as a contender. I forgot your first question. I'm so sorry.
If there's a guy out there that if you were
you would regret.
So who would have the most better's remorse over not having a ticket on if he won?
It's got to be Scottie, isn't it? I mean, it just seems like so obvious. Look, he's trying to become the first guy to win 3 of his first 7 Masters. He just seems like such a slam dunk that you don't want to have that. And at the same time, look, he's the favorite, so the number's not that overwhelming. Maybe you don't feel that bad, but every week he wins if you don't have something on him. I've felt ridiculous in the past. So that's got to be my go-to answer until proven otherwise.
I only have one other question. It's not golf related. It's bear related. I've seen him blowing kisses and holding babies at Saratoga, but I have not seen Bear at Augusta or in a golf setting. Do you have a favorite Bear story on the links?
Man, there's a lot. They're kind of links adjacent. I'll say 2010, just being on the verge of absolute delirium because those Open Championship broadcast days are just such marathons. They're talking 14, 15 hours, and just lots of laughs and great stories there. It's not as glamorous as you think. I know I'm staying in this beautiful highway side hotel here. That's perfectly fine, but there's not a lot of glamour to being on those sites of those major championships. It's a lot of time in catering tents and TV production compounds where you could be on the moon and you wouldn't know the difference. But yeah, no, I hate to say there's not too many, crazy ones. I will say one of the most fun sports watching experiences of my life was one that he came into right after. He was at the 2010 World Cup, was flying into St. Andrews. I sat in a bar in St. Andrews with Jason Sobel, Tom Rinaldi, and a million Orange Netherlands fans during the World Cup final. So I'll say, I mean, there's a lot of those over the years that that were great. And look, Bear was he was the first researcher I shadowed at SportsCenter as an intern in 2007. So I got a lot of great memories with the guy.
But you mean our trips to the energy fountain at the Open Championship in the catering tent?
That's right. They had a generic, whatever the Walmart version of Red Bull was, and it was just called Energy. And I think I drank 7 gallons of it that week, just going off pure adrenaline and whatever was in that fountain.
And the perennial hunt for great Chinese food restaurants in our UK tour, which we found many a times, you, myself, and Dave Behrman.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Sammy, he's right though. That's the crazy thing. When we were working, I was in like the tower with Tarico and Andy and Curtis and Singer and whoever else. J. Ray would either be in the television truck with the graphics people or in another hall. Someone would be like in the main office. Like there were like 3 of us doing a million different things. And like you get there. Oh, I got one. I mean, it has to be. It was Olympic, right? The best. It was really. We weren't. It wasn't about us, but it was about what we were being a part of. And it was one of those days where you're in San Francisco, California time, and we're there at whatever time in the morning, and this is the time when we're still doing wrap-up shows. And our guy, Chris Berman,
Boomer, this one, that's it. Yeah.
And we're sitting there and we're just like ready to go. And he has no idea like what's coming up in the rundown. And his Boomer's literal throw to break was, and when we return, we'll be back. And all of us were like just looking at each other like, please tell me we're not going to have to redo that segment. And I don't think we did. It was just a typical.
No. Boom said one of the great quotes that I still quote at least once a week. They'll get what they get when they get it.
and I think that's one that we can't top to end on. So Justin, great to catch up, great to preview the tournament. Best of luck to you and your broadcast partners this week. We all will be home watching it. We'll do it again soon sometime, but
thanks, man. I really enjoyed this.
So thanks to Justin for sharing some stories, sharing some great metrics, some thoughts and picks of his own. We hit on a couple of the wagers in that conversation, and you mentioned it with Scottie, and we mentioned it with Xander as well. There was something that I found, and it looks like one of the something really wrong has to go, something really bad has to go wrong in order for me to lose this bet. You mentioned top 10 with Scottie. You can find on DraftKings, you are able to parlay finish position top 20. Including ties. Scottie, Xander Schauffele, parlay those two together, both finish in the top 20, comes out to minus 110. We mentioned Scottie has finished in the top 20 every time he's played in the Masters. Xander has finished in the top 20 outside of his first Masters. The only time he has not finished in the top 20 was when he had a bad back, was injured and missed the cut. So I thought that was a bet you have to make. If neither of those guys finishes in the top 20, I will be extremely surprised. So I did play that in addition to the Xander top 10, including ties at plus 105, which that market, the top 10, including ties, up at FanDuel. They have some 30% boosts available. So you can get plus 137 on top 10, including ties, if you're able to utilize that market. So those were a couple of those other top 10, top 20s that I flirted with. Sam, you got anything else?
I've got a couple bets, but just on the Scheffler point, because a lot of people that listen to the show and watch the show only have 1 or 2 books. Here's the range on Scottie top 10 across the market. I have Prop Shop up right here. Minus 140, minus 160, minus 165, minus 190, minus 192. there's a 52-cent gap between the cheapest and the most expensive price. And obviously, if you're going to parlay that with something else, your parlay isn't as nice when you're parlaying minus 190 and minus 192. So if you have the ability to bet that minus 140 or that minus 160, wink, wink, do that before you do it at minus 190 or minus 192. I love DeChambeau. I just think he's playing really well right now. I don't like the win market though, Bear. Hitting that center cut double bullseye is very difficult in a major tournament. I looked at Bryson top 5 and top 10 and settled on top 5. You can find plus 250. I think he's in the hunt. Could he miss the cut? Of course. Like I have no idea what's going to happen, but I did land on DeChambeau top 5. And then I did bet a little Justin Rose first round top 10, not first round leader, which has been slashed. As we told Justin Ray, it used to be 60, 70 to 1. I see it like 30, 35 to 1 now. Justin Rose, first round top 10 is plus 370. I don't think that's a bad idea. He's led 5 times at Augusta after the first round.
That's a good, I haven't seen those little top 10 for surrender derivative. Might have to tell you there. There were a couple other matchups that I did play as well. I played Tyrrell Hatton plus 110 against Shane Lowry. Lowry's form has not been great lately. He doesn't have a great history at Augusta as well. Tyrrell Hatton, top 10 the last couple of years, one of the really good putters on, I was going to say tour. He's now in the Live Tour. But he's someone that I like against Shane Lowry. And then the other matchup was Patrick Reed, the man without a tour, minus 138 against Brooks Koepka. Reed's play at Augusta has been fantastic. Koepka's kind of been hit or miss, and I know he's had a couple of great finishes at Augusta as well. But I think Reed has certainly been a more consistent player here. So I like Captain America there, Patty Reed, over Brooks Koepka.
The other guy that I will be looking at in different markets, and I told the crew, I keep hearing about Adam Scott out of Vegas. Jeff Sherman at the Westgate, our mutual friend, was one of the first guys to say, hey, I like Adam Scott a ton this week. Now, the other books in Vegas have reported sharp action on Scott. Now, that's not in one individual market. It's sort of across. It's a spray bet. So they're betting him, first round stuff. They're betting him in matchups, in groups. I looked at him to be the top Australian. Now, Minwoo is favored. Adam Scott is on line 2 at plus 250 to be the best Australian to finish at the top. So that's a bet worth considering. And we may need a little transitive property here, Barry. You need Hatton to beat, was it Lowry?
Lowry, yes.
I need Scott to beat Hatton at minus 130. So we can both win. I just need Scott ahead of Hatton, and you need Hatton ahead of Shane Lowry. And a little triangle action.
And we can continue that like triangle transitive property with the Adam Scott over Cam Smith in terms of the Australian, because I need Cam Smith to miss the cut. So that way we want Adam Scott to beat Cam. So it's that all kind of works out and flows as well. There's certainly obviously much more going on besides the golf this week. I'll have all of this and maybe some more picks as some other markets get put up on foxsports.com. Do you want to just have Scottie at the best number of, I think plus 550 was the best number that I saw that I have available to me. Like, you just want to have that in pocket and just bet it and know that if he goes out and shoots 70 in round 1, it's going to be much shorter than that.
It's called insurance, right? Like at the blackjack table, if you want to buy the insurance. Actually, Caesars just went out to 6 to 1. I believe there's a Caesars in your state, so you might want to bet that. Might want to bet 91. That 6 to 1. What's that?
I have to make a little ride up 91, but we're good. That's close enough.
30, well, to your point though, there's a 6 to 1, and then on the other side, there's a plus 490. It's an extra. If you're betting $100 on Scottie to win, do you want to win 490 or 600? I mean,
correct.
It's a very easy question to answer. It's very rhetorical. I was looking at. I know we're going to talk about some other sports and some other bets. Kind of jamming in Scottie to finish top 10. Again, top 10 not to win, with the Boston Celtics to win the East. And I know that, that's not a bet that, takes a lot of knowledge. I'm taking the best golfer in the world and the best team in the East. But if you jam them together accordingly, you're talking about a really nice payout here. So Scottie top 10, along with the Celtics at plus 175, you're talking about a bet that pays over 4-1. And that's not the greatest payout in the world, Bear, but I think both of those are very, very likely to win.
See, that's the way I approach golf betting. Like, I know everyone loves to say, oh, I had Jacob Bridgman at 65-1 or whatever it was to win in Riviera. It might have even been longer than that, but I'd rather take my chances on a lot safer risk, higher chance winning than firing a bunch of darts on some longer prices. So I'm with you. You can even look at Scottie top 10 or the Xander or Scottie top 20 like I have with the Celtics, maybe with the Tampa Bay Lightning I like the Lightning over the Canes in terms of the East in the NHL. So I think that's something you can look at. You could look at maybe Bayern Munich to reach the final in the Champions League, things like that, to kind of look for a little bit of bang for your buck, turn a couple of plus 170s, plus 200s into 5-1 or so is certainly a good way to look at it. I did bet two things immediately upon returning home and landing in New York at JFK, because in Connecticut, I can't bet the college football win totals just now. They weren't up, or aren't up, I should say. So I wanted to make sure I could bet them in New York. So I bet Colorado under 4.5 wins, and I bet Florida State under 6.5 wins. Colorado, you had a couple of generational players in Deion's first couple of years with Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Last year, they kind of bottomed out. Coaching staff has been overhauled. Defensive coordinator gone, Warren Sapp gone, a lot of other players, a lot of other coaches gone. Jordan Seaton, the best offensive lineman, is gone. You look at the schedule, they get a majority of the better teams in the Big 12 at home this year. They get Utah, Kansas State, Texas Tech. Like these are Houston. These are teams they're not going to beat even at Folsom Field. The road schedule looks brutal. Georgia Tech non-conference, Northwestern non-conference, Baylor, Oklahoma State, who's going to be improved, Arizona State, Cincinnati on the road. Like you could look, this could be a 2-win team. Like this could be a team that beats Weber State, and then maybe they beat UCF, and that's kind of it. So under 4.5 at like minus 144, I think it was. I don't mind paying the juice on that a little bit extra, just because it's more about the win number itself as opposed to the price. So even if you could find an old number at 3.5 at a better number, I would certainly consider doing that, because I think this is a 2-win type of team in the Big 12 this year for Colorado. So 3, I think, is going to be hard to come by. 5, I think, is going to be nearly impossible to come by. So I hit that one pretty good. And then Florida State, the reports you get from camp right now, offensive line problems, quarterback problems. Ashton Daniels, who was at Auburn last year, is their quarterback. Gus Malzahn gone. It's a big, big season now for Mike Norvell, and I don't see how this is a 7-win team. You look at their road record, the way their slate works out, like they may not win a road game. They go to Alabama, they go to Louisville, they go to Miami, and then their next road game is at Boston College, which should be a winnable game, but it's in November, and you're looking at a team at this point in the year, they might be 3-5, and Mike Norvell might be fired, and the stamp may be licked for the season, and then they play Pitt on the road. So they may lose every single one of those 5 road games right there. And then you've got SMU at home. You've got Virginia at home, who lost in the ACC championship game last year. Clemson at home, the rivalry game against Florida, who will be better this year, and NC State. So I think this is a 6-6 team at best, and a really good chance that Florida State misses a bowl for the second consecutive season. So 2 unders to kick off the college football season. No, I'm tying up my money for quite some time, but I think I got best of the number there.
Sounds like I might have to bet a little of that Colorado under half an appearance on Big Noon kickoff this year. It doesn't sound like Big Noon's going to be going to Boulder anytime soon.
Big Noon live from Boulder for Texas Tech. Actually, maybe if they can beat Weber State and maybe keep it respectable against Georgia Tech, maybe we can get them hosting Texas Tech. I'm never going to complain about making that trip out to Colorado and all that beautiful scenery.
That first year, though, when you had to go there 3 times in 4 weeks, was so funny. It was the best.
It was, well, like, here we are. Oh yeah, we just know we're going back out for Colorado State. Huh.
Yeah. And the
Okay.
producers in your ear like, all right, Bear, rap. We got to get to Lil Wayne, right? Like, he's just like yes.
Exactly.
I didn't make this bet yet, but I know a lot of boosters at Notre Dame. And I didn't bet them preseason last year. As you know, I'm not a Notre Dame guy, but these guys are both saying 12-0, and this is the best team Freeman's ever had. Now, there's a lot of hyperbole thrown around, and we hear that all the time. We hear it every year with Gonzaga, right? This is Mark Few's best basketball team.
Sure is.
But these guys believe that Notre Dame is not losing a regular season game. So maybe something that we can get into over the coming months. Their schedule is a joke. Their toughest game is Saturday, November 7th, when they're home against Miami. They start with Wisconsin, Rice, Michigan State, all at home. Then they go to Purdue, North Carolina. They're going to be 5-0, 6-0. Then they go to BYU. I mean, this is very likely an 11-1 or 12-0 team. But the odds reflect that. I mean, they're the second favorite at multiple books to win the title. So the books are aware. The books know how sharp Notre Dame is this year, and they know that people bet Notre Dame every year. But to see Notre Dame and Ohio State have the same price to win the national championship, it's pretty eye-opening, Bear, no doubt.
Their win, when I was looking at those win totals yesterday morning, they're 11 over 11.5 is minus 200. The winner of the Miami Notre Dame game on November 7th that you just mentioned will be undefeated in the regular season, be the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I bet, and if you like Notre Dame to go 12-0, that means they're going to beat Miami. Why not bet CJ Carr at plus 800 to win the Heisman? If Notre Dame is 12-0, number 1 in the country, CJ Carr is absolutely winning the Heisman Trophy. No?
I think I would bet Notre Dame title before I would bet Carr Heisman. I mean, there's correlation there, of course. I hate that over 11.5 minus 200, though, man. I hate that bet.
When I saw that, I couldn't believe it. And so you figure what they'll be. I mean, I guess if you play it, they'll be what, 4.5, 5, maybe 4, maybe 4, 4.5, maybe against see. Miami. So you could probably get off it if you wanted to. With just a Miami money line play, if you didn't feel great about it by the end, there are no other losable games on the schedule.
DraftKings favorites to win the title: Ohio State, Indiana, Notre Dame, just like we all thought, right?
We're going to have some fun conversations in the coming weeks, in spring and summer, and leading up to the fall, because you look at like Ohio State, like the talk about them potentially losing 3 games for the first time in a while. Texas and Arch Manning and the schedule that they have, they're going to be a lot of good fun. And I'm curious to see what type of price is thrown up on Notre Dame to make the playoff, because we all know now with the top 12 rule, with them being in it, with that schedule, like they have to be like minus a bajillion to make the playoff, and they put those odds up. Minus
infinity, Bear. That's what it should be with the new rule.
Well, minus infinity was the amount of fun we had this week without Jeff. Maybe we'll have to make. No, I'm just kidding. But we did have minus infinity fun this week, kicking this stuff around. Masters, Justin Ray, but we'll have even double minus infinity fun when Jeff Schwartz gets back and tells us fishing stories from Sewataneo. He and Red and Andy down there in Mexico having some fun. Yet bad Shawshank Redemption joke, but appreciate everybody for listening. Thanks, Sammy. Good to see you back. Good to be back. We'll be back again, kicking around some more college football, NHL, Stanley Cup playoffs, NBA playoffs, all the other fun stuff that we have coming up in this World Cup preview as well. We'll be here to preview it all. So for Jeff, for Sammy, I'm Bear. Thanks again. Rate, review, subscribe, Apple, Spotify, we're going to be podcast. Remember, less you bet, more you lose if you win.